Here we go.
Yo, what's up, y'all? This is Masta Ace from Brooklyn, New York, and you're checking out Getting the Gig.
That's right. Master Ace, I will say, long time, first time. This is our first interaction on the show, and I've been a listener for a long, long time. I would say that as a rapper from New York, New York is the birthplace of hip hop, but you, I believe, do not get nearly enough credit for being, I'm on the West Coast. And when all of the West Coast stuff was happening, and then the East Coast West Coast rivalry was happening, you, I believe, were uniquely positioned and uniquely motivated and uniquely effective at making those of us on the West Coast appreciate ongoing East Coast hip hop. And do you have any commentary on what your kind of position in hip hop history is there? Do you think we got it? I don't think enough of us did, but what do you think?
Well, what I was trying to do at that time, which was really 94, 95, when things were really at their height, I was trying to make the point to the industry and to the culture that even though we might live on separate coasts, we're all still part of this culture. We're all still cousins in a way. And so I used a cousin character on the album, on my Sitting on Chrome album, to try to illustrate that he was from the West Coast, I was from the East Coast, and maybe we did things a little bit differently, but we were still family. And that was what I was trying to kind of communicate to the listeners um, through that album and through those skits. And some people got it. I would say probably most people didn't get it. But I just always try to be intentional about my albums and make a point, make a statement with the album. And it wasn't just about music and trying to quote unquote get a hit record and sell a million records. It was really more about entertaining the listener and sending some sort of a message through the music. And so at that time, 90 95, 96, 94, 95, that was what was happening. You mentioned it. The East Coast West Coast rivalry was really fired up. It was at its height. It was right before Big Pac died, but all that stuff was like was about to happen, and I saw it. I saw that fire that had been started, and it was the fire was growing. The hip hop magazines and publications were throwing logs on the fire and throwing kerosene on it. And I don't think anybody knew that it would turn deadly the way that it did. But a lot of these journalists, they didn't understand that what was happening behind the scenes with the gang culture,
Yeah, what they
with
were
the
playing with.
right with the street culture. They just think, oh, this is just fun. Back and forth diss tracks, and they didn't realize that behind the scenes there were like people that really were not playing around, and so obviously things got way, way, way out of hand. We lost some greats because of it. And my message probably got a little bit lost in the sauce because nobody was really trying to hear that peace stuff. Nobody was really trying to hear that, we're family. Everybody was just so fired up to just be angry with each other. So the message kind of got lost or missed by many, by the masses. The message got missed by the masses, but those
Yeah.
like yourself who are paying attention got it, and hopefully it had an impact on some.
Yeah, it definitely did. It was highly unfortunate, all those things. But I am from Vallejo, California. And Vallejo, California is the home of Mac Dre, E40. It was, we had a robust hip hop culture. I mean, I grew up with those guys. My neighbor across the street, his name was Kelvin Gomez, and his little sister Mayanne ended up marrying Drez from Black Sheep. And
Oh
so
wow.
we had this connection to the East Coast. All of the East Coast music really moved us. Plus, when man, I don't even remember what the East Coast connection was, but when we were kids, man, we couldn't wait to get fat laces. We couldn't, all of it. We were all in. And so I felt like we had a little pocket there. And it was really unfortunate that we didn't, we felt like everybody else was missing out on where we could be connected. Um, I want to go back though, because I think it's an interesting story, and I'd like you to talk just very briefly about a 1985 phone call you got from Scooter Rockwell about a rap contest that happened in Queens.
Yeah. I Scooter was one of my good friends from my neighborhood, Brownsville. He lived on the other side of Brownsville, but we're talking about maybe 15-20 minute walk between my where I lived and where he lived. Brownsville was very big, a lot of housing projects. So, but we were fellow MCs. He rapped, I rapped, um, and we respected each other's craft. And this particular night in question, I was home for Christmas break from college, and he called me up and said that he was on his way out to this skating rink in Queens called USA, and he was entering this contest. Did I wanna go? Did I want to enter? I'm like, sure. Well, first, I didn't say sure right away. I said no, actually, at first, because it was Christmas night, and I didn't feel right. My mother was there, grandmother's there, everybody's home, and I felt like it was going to be rude. I'm home from school to just be like, oh, I'm going out with my friends. Like, so I said no, and my mother overheard the conversation, and she actually told me that I should go. We had already eaten dinner. It was all good. Like, you want to go hang with your friends? Go. And so I called him back and got him on the phone. Thanks to his sister, who to this day I need to have a conversation with, because she has no idea how important she was or she is in my story after
Wow.
all these years. She was probably like 14, 13, 14. And so when I called him back to say I want to go, he had already left the house. He was like walking down the street. And when I called back, she was like, "Oh, he left." And I'm like, "Yo, see if you can catch him." And usually little sisters are like,
You got
"He
time for
ain't
that.
right. He ain't here." Click. And but for some reason, I heard her run outside and scream up the block to him, and he came back and got on the phone with me and told me where to meet him. I had never been to the USA before, so he told me where to meet him and all that. So because of her, who I made it I spoke to one of his cousins. He passed away, by the way, Scooter Rockwell, rest in peace. But I talked to one of the family members, and I said, please put me in touch with his sister, because I want to have a conversation. I want to tell her this story, because she probably doesn't have no idea about this story. But anyway, I met him on the train. Scooter owned a Dr. Rhythm, which is a drum machine, one of the first drum machines that we were using. He had a
Boss,
Dr.
Dr. Rhythm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm literally on the F train programming my beat for the rhyme that I'm going to say. So I had certain key lines. I had certain key lines that I needed the beat to drop so people
Mhm.
could hear the whole line. So I'm literally sitting on the train programming the Dr. Rhythm so that when I say my rap, the beat is going to stop at on the perfect line and then start back up. So that was happening like literally all the way there. And we get there, and I entered this contest with about 35 other rappers that were there. And I was in the middle. So if it was 30 people, I was like 15, 16. And so I heard the first 15, 16 people, and I knew right away from what I was hearing that what I had planned was way different. Everybody was just rapping about, being dope and being nice, and nobody can mess with me, and I'm the best, and da da da, which is like the typical at that time in the 80s. That's what, everybody had to like flex their lyrical muscle on the mic. So everybody
uh,
was talking about how dope they were. So, but I knew, because I was coming different. I wasn't doing that rap. I was doing a story rap about a girl and this whole sexcapade story with a really unsex- unexpected punchline at the very end of the story. So I knew I got so much confidence from watching all of these rappers. Nobody was doing what I was going to do. So I went up there by myself, first time ever on stage in front of an audience of strangers, and I spit this rap that I wrote. And the reaction was overwhelming, because nobody had done what I did, and I got people's attention. It was a funny story. It was interesting. People followed the story all the way to the end and couldn't believe the ending. And so because of that, I won the contest. And
yeah.
some say the rest is history.
Well, and the rest would indeed be history, but let's punctuate that point. But it's always been within your artistic instinct to tell a story, to draw everybody in, to captivate them, and then to give them a big ending.
Yeah.
So, what influenced you think your sort of cinematic approach to writing songs?
Well, Slick Rick Lottie Dottie was the
Hmm.
blueprint. Was the blueprint for that rap that I wrote that night, or
Yeah,
that I spit that night. You know, Lottie Dottie was a huge in New York on the streets in the mixtape scene.
us
Um,
too.
e- Everybody was playing that joint, and
Hmm.
so I kind of wrote. I wrote
Had
something
to
that
give
was
me some Polo cologne.
right. I wrote something that was Lottie Dottie esque. Because that was a big record. So I wrote a rap that was similar to what Slick Rick did, and I
Kind of
programmed
day in the life.
and I programmed the drums to make sure to it sounded like Impeach the President, like a fake version of Impeach the President, which was what Dougie Fresh was doing with his human beatbox.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, I just wrote something that was very similar in terms of the story part. Well, my story was not anything like Lottie Dottie, but I'm just saying the point of writing a rap about a girl and something that happened.
Hmm.
That was basically the approach. And Slick Rick was like probably one of the first influences on me, on the storytelling side of it. It was definitely Slick Rick.
Okay. Okay. So eventually that led to you joining the Juice Crew, and you were on the Juice Crew record, the Symphony, and
Yeah,
that's
Marley Marl
pretty
in
much
control.
our
Yeah,
first our first exposure to Masta Ace.
yeah, it was. Yep, my first time hearing my voice on a record. People's first time hearing my voice on a record. First time seeing my face. And first time hearing my name was when that video came out. So I was brand new to the scene, and so I'm sure people were like, "Who's this guy?" We know who Kane is. We know Craig. Craig has songs out. We know who Cool G Rap is. Who is this guy? So yeah, I'm thankful to get the opportunity to be on that song, because that song really springboarded my entire career.
Terrific. You were also on the Crooklyn Dodgers with Special Ed and Buckshot, and the you recorded the theme song to Spike Lee's Crooklyn. Has he had an influence on you as a writer, specifically of long form stories?
Not necessarily from that. I feel like I already was writing that way
Okay.
before Spike, but certainly um, the influence of being a part of a movie, like to be on the soundtrack of a movie for the first time, and for that movie to be a huge success, and for it to be a cultural masterpiece. Um, I was influenced by Spike because I was a part of that, and so it made me. It just gave me more of a presence in the industry. I felt like it gave me a little bit more credibility because of my association with Spike and that movie. So definitely owe that to him.
Okay. Are you still in touch? And are you a Knicks fan?
I'm definitely a Knicks fan. And in touch in a way. So I have his assistant's uh, contact, and I've talked to the assistant a couple of times via text, just trying to get Spike to take a look or listen to my to the musical that I wrote, trying to see if I can get him involved. He's just not really into theater. It's not something that it's not his jam. So he kind of respectfully declined through the assistant. But all you could do is reach out. But I'm not in touch with him on any regular basis. I think if I walked up to him on the street, he wouldn't immediately know who I was unless I told him.
Oh wow. We're gonna get back to that not being his jam theme, but first I want to talk about sitting on Chrome. In my fantasy brain, you still have a Jeep and you have Jeep beats pumping out of it when you drive around, but I suspect that you and I both have somewhat aged out of putting our Jeep beats out into the, into the neighborhood.
I've outgrown the 15-inch woofers and the ridiculously loud bass and the rearview mirror vibrating. Like
Yeah.
I've literally aged, like you said, aged out and outgrown it. Like I don't need my music to be that loud anymore. I'm good.
Yeah. Um, in the year 2000, and I promise we're going to get to the falling season in a second here, but in the year 2000, you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I am elated to see that you look like you're moving around great and you're still, creative.
Yeah.
But you held that back from us for 13 years. And in that 13 years that you knew you had it, did it affect your your work life, your work schedule, your aggressiveness toward creativity? What did it do to you?
It made me more aggressive. It made my work life more active because I didn't know what the future was going to look like. So I really wanted to, like, it felt like a last hurrah for me. Or in my
Wow.
mind, it could be a last hurrah. So I looked at Disposable Arts, that album, as this might be my last album because I don't know where this disease is going to take me after this. So let
Mm.
me really put together the exact record that I want with no, I didn't want any influence, any talking. I didn't want anybody in my ear giving me any suggestions. I wanted to just do this last record the way I wanted to do it. And I truly felt like it was going to be my last record. So I wanted to make sure that it came out exactly the way I wanted, and it did. Um, but yeah, that was like a very uncertain time for me, and it made me want to do things in my life that I hadn't even thought about doing. Like but from the time that I got that diagnosis, there were several things that I did that were different than anything that I had done up to that point. I took skiing lessons. I learned how to ski. I learned how to snow. I learned how to snowboard. Um,
Okay.
I, I started coaching high school football. I did that for 9 years at one school and then 2 years at another school, so a total of 11
Wow.
years. Um, Impacting inner city youth and young men. Um, these are all things that you think about in your mind, like, yeah, maybe one day I'll try that. Maybe one day I'll coach. Maybe one day I'll learn how to ski. But once that diagnosis came, it made me very much more intentional about the things that I was doing.
That
Um,
one day was right now.
yeah, yeah, and I got married, um, had a child. Like all these things happened within 2 to 4 years from the diagnosis. A lot of major things happened, and I went to Europe for the first time and toured extensively. My first tour after the diagnosis was in 2001,
Mm.
and we did 26 shows in 31 days or something like that. And so and that began my touring. My touring life really started after the diagnosis. Like the real touring life started after that diagnosis.
Wow. And that was your first tour of Europe, 2001.
Like I had done shows in Europe. I had performed in London before. I did a show
Okay.
in Denmark before, but these are like one-off shows. But I'm
Hmm.
talking about in 2000. I did a tour, 13 shows, and that was like after the diagnosis. But that was when I kind of got my feet wet. And then I came back in '01 with the album, and then I did the
And
real,
to
the
support the album.
yeah, 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 yep.
Yeah.
And
How,
I've been touring
how
ever since.
uh I know you're pretty well received on the West Coast. How are you received in Europe?
Oh, it's another level. The
Yeah.
U.S. doesn't compare to the reception that I get in Europe, the turnouts that I get in Europe. You know, you're talking about 500 people, 600 people, 800 people a night when I perform over there versus performing in the States, where it's 150, maybe you get 200, maybe you get 250, maybe you get 300. If I get
Mm.
300 people in a show in the U, if I get 300 in the US, I'm like happy, like it's just a successful night. But you know,
Yeah.
the US is driven by radio play, popularity, commercial popularity. That's what sells tickets in the US. In Europe,
Trendiness.
Yes, in Europe, what sells tickets is that the music is good and that people like you as an artist and want to come see you in person.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've, really had to. That's what I've relied on, and that's what has kept my career going the way that it has.
Wow. Europeans, the British in particular, but in places like Copenhagen and Amsterdam, and they have a long history of appreciating our artists, especially our African American artists. More, I mean,
Hmm.
even the artists that come from there, they say, well, let's take the black music and go to America and bring our white artists. Like that's the whole Rolling Stones recipe.
Right,
So it's a little bit surprising, but shouldn't be. It shouldn't be
right.
surprising that they'd be into you and they get it. Uh, so let's talk about the following season because the album came in 2016, and you are really working the play now. What's the status of the play? Is there a run planned? Is
So we don't have a run of the play plan yet
okay,
because we are still trying to secure proper funding to do a full production.
okay,
And my intention and my goal is to open in London. I want to open on the West End in London. I
uh,
would. I'm not even looking at Broadway or off Broadway. I'm not looking at the States at all. I want to start in London because my real true core fan base is over there. And I know that I'm going to get that support when I'm over there. So I'm going to get people flying in or taking the train in from Amsterdam, taking the
yeah,
train in from Paris,
mhm.
flying in on the cheap flights from Germany to see this show in London. And so that's our goal. But in the meantime, because all we've
Americans, that's
ever
what we get. That's what we get for
yeah
not appreciating our artists here.
yeah
Anyway,
yeah
please
that's
continue.
that's yeah. So the goal is to open there. But in the meantime, I've put together a cabaret version of the play. It's like a 1 hour show, but it's basically featuring some of the songs from the show. Maybe like 75% of the music from the play is actually in this cabaret. I narrate the story. It's nine of us on the stage performing different records, and yeah, I narrate and I actually rap as the main character's best friend. And so it's a way for people to hear the music, hear the story, and know what the overall play is about. And it's actually been really, really effective in getting more interest in the full length play, which is about a 2 hour show once we get it off the ground.
Okay, I want to talk in detail about that, but first, I ask you, I hate musicals.
Me
But
too.
as you
Me
can
too.
tell, I'm a
Me
fan
too.
of your work. What you do? So what? Well, I suppose I should ask you first. What drove you to write a play, to write a musical, and then please convince me that I ought to see it. Even though I hate musicals, and it sounds since you know exactly why I should come see it.
Absolutely. I specifically, I feel like I wrote this musical for people like you and I.
Okay.
For people that hate musicals, this is the musical for you. Um, it's going to speak to you in a different way than a typical musical will. It's not the corny music that you expect from a musical. It's not watered down in any way. The story is very engaging. The characters are very interesting, and it takes you on a journey. And um, my goal was to not do the typical musical. My goal was to do a play that had songs in it, and that's kind of what we have. A play that has music and songs in it. Um, you'll be pleasantly surprised when you finally do hear the music and hear the story. Um, the best example, we had a reading of it back in 2023. We did a full reading, like the full cast. It was a cast of 14. We had choreography, but it was just a reading. So you got to understand that there's just chairs and music stands on the stage. But our director, Todd Underwood, did an incredible job of creating movement with these chairs, with the music stands. The actors have their scripts in front of them. They're walking around with their scripts, and he was able to sort of create this world that really wasn't there. It was just a blank stage. But he was able to, through movement, give the audience an idea of what the world would look like if it was an actual set. And so we did this. We did this reading. We did three presentations of the reading for audiences. And my wife's good friend, she came with her boyfriend, and he complained on the train ride all the way there. Like, why are you bringing me to this? You know, I don't like this kind of stuff. I'm not into this kind of stuff.
That would be
And
me.
yeah, he's like, I don't, And at the end of the night, he came running up to me like, yo,
Ah,
that was dope. Yo, I didn't think I was gonna like it. And she's like, yeah, he complained the whole way there, and now he the first one talking about yo. It's for
okay.
people like that.
And that was not even off of full production. That was off of was essentially table read with a little bit of motion in it to enhance what's
Exactly,
going on. Wow.
exactly.
So compelling story, compelling music, a little bit of movement just to kind of keep you stimulated and give you a little depth of understanding. How much of the story is based on the outfalling season, the album?
Not a lot. The only
Oh,
things that the main things that I pull from that album are that the main character's in high school, so that's accurate. His best friend Fats is his best friend in the musical, so Fats is there, um, and the rest of the storylines come from my other albums, Aloha Summer and um, Disposable Arts. Because
okay.
on Disposable Arts, there's a Lisa character that's supposed to be like the girlfriend who has the brother that's the drug dealer.
Hmm.
So the drug dealer brother is in the story. Lisa's in the story, and um, Fats, who's originally from a Long Hot Summer album, he's a key component to the entire story. He kind of ties the whole thing together. And I rap as Fats in the cabaret. I do his songs, but I'm not obviously going to be playing Fats. But it was so the audience could at least get me rapping something. So they get me rapping two. Fats, he has two songs or three songs, I should say, in the
Okay.
show. So yeah,
So
so
in addition to being the narrator, you had to deliver a little something for
yeah. I turn
everybody.
into I put this bucket hat on when I'm fat, so I let the audience know when I'm wearing the
Uh-huh.
hat, I'm
Oh,
fat. Yeah, there you go.
just happen
Exactly.
to have that in it.
Yep.
So I guess since you're spanning uh, all of those albums, this is a story that's at least loosely about events in your life that you've woven together.
Absolutely. It's definitely loosely based on, you know, there's certain aspects of this main character that are clearly my life, such as the being raised by a mother and a grandmother. Um, he's kind of being raised by his grandmother while his mother is incarcerated. My mother wasn't incarcerated, but my mother was away for chunks of time because she was out trying to, carve out this new life for us. At one point we were living in Boston, and she brought me out there, and then she moved to Atlanta, and then the plan was to bring me out there, and so because of all of this movement, um, my grandmother was like kind of like the main uh, parent, if you will, in my life for big parts of it. So the grandmother character plays a huge role, but throughout the throughout the show, even though the mother is incarcerated, you get these lessons that she was trying to impart on her son. But you
Hmm.
get flashbacks to when she wasn't incarcerated, and you get these flashbacks, so you get an idea of her influence on him as a young man.
Yeah. So I get the feeling that you're bringing these elements in, but for dramatic effect, it's not necessarily autobiographical.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, you're still writing what you know without,
Exactly.
without it being specifically about your life. know, between 2016 when the Falling Season came out and now with the play, that's a pretty long gap of time. I could see
Yeah.
why you would go back to those characters, but was that why so long?
Well, it literally took eight years of writing to get to the point where we did the reading in 2023. I was writing this thing for 8 years.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
it took a long time to get it to the point where it was ready to be seen, and so many rewrites, so many changes of storyline, slight changes, major changes. Like, it's a process to get this thing written, and it's really never really done. Like, every time I look at the script, I see new things and things I want to fix. I'm changing dialogue constantly to make it more realistic, feel like so it's a long process to get it to the finish line, and we're not even at the finish. We're not at the finish line until we open in London.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Yeah,
Uh, so you've locked down a story, and now you can tell it in a couple different forms. Like you said, you're doing the cabaret, you have the full, the full play, but now you've locked down a story. But the finish line is really, who knows where the finish line is, but a finish line is opening night.
absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So now, the same way that you sort of outgrew Jeep beats or aged out of Jeep beats, would you say that the medium of a rap song was constraining enough that that's why you decided to explore writing a play?
Yeah, I definitely felt like I felt for many years like there was more I wanted to do with my writing. I had other ideas, other thoughts. I had screenplays, partially written screenplays on my laptop. I had TV shows on my laptop, and I really felt like it was time to at least explore these other writing projects. And so I kind of music was still there, but I wanted to kind of put it in, give it a back seat for a little bit while I worked on these other projects. But of course, the touring is still always kind of calling you. And so as I'm working on this musical, as I'm working on these other writing projects, there's always shows happening and shows being requested. So the music part of it is always still there, but I looked at this writing project and the other writing projects as kind of my exit strategy from music, and so
Okay.
it's still my exit strategy, to go from being a writer of music and songs to a playwright and to a screenplay writer.
Hmm. As a writer of songs, it seems like this might be a layup question, but it seems like you're more a storyteller than a musician, but you definitely are. You think like a musician. It seems like, I mean, in terms of, like you said, you were on that train on your way to your very first stage performance, and you knew to punctuate, uh, the song with dropouts and stuff like that. Is it true you are much more in tune with the storytelling aspect than the music making aspect?
I'm definitely more in tune with it. It's my comfort zone. It's when I'm the most uh excited to write, when there's a story and some sort of a story or narrative in the verse. I'm less excited about just writing battle bars or just going in bars. Like, I can do that, but it's not when I'm at my best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just feel like I could do those kind of bars, but I'm not super excited about it. And I do it because sometimes, maybe a beat just kind of talks to you and makes you want to go, oh, you know what, I'm about to talk some shit on this. But
Hmm.
for the most part, I would rather put a narrative on the paper, put a narrative to the beat than just rapping about how dope I am.
Hmm. Draw us into a story.
Yeah.
Uh, I appreciated Knowledge, which was a diss track against High and Mighty and Boogeyman. For those who haven't heard it, go back and find it. Everybody, listen to it. As diss track go, I enjoyed it, but I will say that I haven't listened to it in a long time, and I feel like just based on what you just said, I don't feel like, you know, it's aged the same as we have. Do you ever go back to your previous works where, you know, they were that were less story driven and listen to them and have thoughts about them?
Well, I still perform a lot of them. Like I perform that song every show.
Okay.
People want to hear that record, so
Yeah.
it's locked in. Like I can recite it no problem.
Hmm.
I just feel like you know, th- I'm at my best with those kind of bars when there's some sort of emotion attached to it, some sort of. I was kind of like, I don't want to say I was angry. My friend said, "Yo, you sound mad on that song." I wasn't really mad. I was just kind of fed up. And so
Yeah.
when you're fed up about something, you feel like people are talking shit about you. Like you ready to just shut everything down. And so I'll write. It's easy to write from that place. But
Okay.
if you just give me a beat, I'm not mad at nobody, and just like yo, go in. I could write to it, but it might not be the craziest bars. They'd be okay, but it ain't gonna be them fire bars. Like some rappers are great at that. Like you just get them a beat, and
Yeah.
they just immediately come up with all these crazy lines. I'm not at my best when that's the task. I'm at my best when I can paint a picture or do something really interesting with the bars or something creative with the bars or tell a story or pull you into some sort of a scenario. That's when I'm at my best.
Okay, fair enough. But as diss tracks go, there was a, a maturity um, to acknowledge that you didn't have in, you know, No Vaseline or Hit 'Em
Right.
Up. I mean, you know, um, it was much more laid back, and it was more like, you know what, youngster, let me just put
Yeah.
something on you real quick. And so if you are now exploring more these long form things, do you have other plays in you, or you know, like you said, you have TV shows and screenplays that you've chipped away at? What do you imagine is next? You know, and I understand that something is probably going to catch fire in your imagination, and it's going to make itself next. But do you have stuff that you're working on that you're pretty warm about?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely have another play in me, but it would
Mhm.
have to this play would have to come to fruition first for me to figure out what the next play is. I've given it thought. I've actually thought about uh a story that kind of connects to this play in some way.
Yeah.
Um, but I haven't fleshed that out because I don't want to get that far until I know what the final product is with this play. But at the same time, I do have this TV show that I've written. Like I've basically written 3 episodes to it of it already, and then I stopped because I wasn't. I was talking to some people that already write in television, and I was like, is it cool to already to? Like, I could write this whole season, and they were like, hold off. Like a lot of times studios don't want you to kind of come in with the whole thing written already. They would rather you just kind of come in with, the idea and the show Bible and not fully flesh it out. So I stopped. I stopped at 3 episodes, and so that's why I'm at with that show. But that show, I'm super. I've let a couple of people, actors, and some people that were like very much involved in the behind the scenes world of TV read it, and they're like, "Yo, you wrote this? This is pretty good for somebody who never wrote a TV show before."
Hmm.
So I I'm super confident in that project. And when the time comes, I think maybe the musical will open that door. I think one door opens the next. So the musical pops off. I feel like it'll open the door for me to have these other conversations with other people about on the TV side. So it's almost like, oh, great, you got a great musical. That's great. Oh, by the way, I got a TV show. What? Oh, let me hear, let me see it. So then people are a little bit more open.
Seems like, and correct if you think my intuition is off, but if you have a successful musical, that leads to the next musical. But if you have a musical that people got aware of that was like, man, this really should have been. And we understand you never got the opening on the west end that you wanted, but it was strong. And so, maybe turn your attention away from a musical or the theater into another medium like television. It seems like even if the West End premiere doesn't happen, isn't gangbusters, whatever, it, it still could open that door in television. Whereas really the next musical comes from, not saying it has to be a sequel, but the next musical comes from a successful musical.
Right.
Would
I
you, do
mean,
you
we
think
know
that's true?
yeah, and we never know what door is going to be opened by which event. So I'm just keeping my mind open. I'm trying to be fluid to however things lay out, and just follow my instincts.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of your live shows, are you doing a lot of collaborative stuff, like play much in terms of festivals, or do you do mostly one-off shows?
No, I mean I do. I just came back from Europe. I did a 10 show run of, because this year marks 25 years since I released Disposable Arts.
Yeah.
So I just did a run of 10 shows with a live band where I did the entire album from beginning to end. And this is something that's brand new. I've never done this before, a
That's
full album.
absolutely up my alley. I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, yeah,
Man,
yeah. I feel like we'll do more. I don't know how many we'll do in the US, but just based on the feedback that we got from the 10 shows we did, like so many people saw clips of it and were like, yo, you got to bring this to my city. And I'm like, okay, we could bring it to your city, but you got to have the right promoter, and you got to
right.
have another 300 people like yourself that want to that know this album and want to hear it. But
Yeah.
it was a super different experience for me and for my audience, because a lot of the people that have seen me perform, sometimes some people have seen me 5 6 times. This is totally different kind of show for them,
Mm.
and they really appreciated it, because it was different, but they enjoyed it, and that's what it's about. And so I want to bring more of these shows before the year is out, and I look forward to bringing it to, hopefully, to the West.
Yeah.
I would love to do a couple of shows out there. The band that I use, they're from the Czech Republic. Um, so if the finances could be figured out, I would love to fly them in to do the shows with me, as opposed to finding another replacement band, because I don't know if anybody could. I mean, I'm sure that somebody could pull it off, but like, we already kind of got a rhythm with it. We did 10 shows already, so
Yeah.
I would rather them come out and do it with me.
I understand that approach, but I'm a drummer. And I know
Okay,
if you said, hey, man, you know what? We're going to play Yoshi's and then we're going to go down south and we're going to we strung up 5 or 6 shows. I'll get us a musical director. We'll do it, man. Uh,
okay,
but I do understand continuity. And if you have a band that you've been working with that you've established a chemistry with, and, you have a show already. So it's easiest to pack up that show and bring it places. But
yeah.
on the other hand,
It might not be easy, because the way the prices of flights are right now.
yep, yep.
Um,
Getting
it,
people across the border, all kinds
right.
of craziness going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of hurdles that we would have to overcome.
Yeah,
So I would just leave it open,
yeah.
and open ended until such time as that we can figure that part out. But there's a video element to the show that has to be handled as well,
Mm.
um, which actually made the show also very cool, because in between songs, when those skits are happening, there's actually action happening on the screen, that are acting out the full skit. So you're getting to hear the entire album as it plays, and part of it is happening on the screen, which is really cool.
You are, after all, a long form storyteller.
And this, when I tell you, this was the ultimate, from a live, performance standpoint. This was the ultimate show.
Yeah. Well, as a drummer and a hip hop fan, I always appreciate, artists who bring a hip hop show with a live band. That's the greatest. But there's a lot of people who don't understand the logistical challenges and it's a reality that that's a lot more, a lot more people to pay and feed and house and transport and everything. So you got all of those things to think about. But I think, like I said, I would love to see that show. And if you said, hey, you know what, I don't think I can bring that band over here from the Czech Republic. I know we could muster a band in the Bay Area, and I'm sure you could muster one in New York too, but I don't live in New York, so I'm just going to say I'm positive we could muster one out here.
Respectfully, I will keep you in the loop.
Okay.
And if you find a promoter in the Bay that wants to take it on, by all means, let me know, and maybe we can figure that out and make that happen.
Okay. Uh, I'm going to bring it back to the falling season because I want to close up on the fact that we want this play to open on the West End, and we want to create that finish line like we mentioned. The the sequence of this thing and the struggle of 8 years of writing in the process, all of that is just incubating. And I want to make sure that everybody knows we've been, kind of saying, hey, you should come out and see this show, especially if you're not specifically a fan of plays and musicals. This is the one for you. Knowing that you had it marinating, in this process for 8 years, and it was an 8-year journey of pulling in influences from other parts of your life, from your other pieces of work. That just makes it that much more enticing. um, is there anything that we can do as fans to, let potential investors know that they ought to get behind this thing because we want to come see it?
Yeah, well, my goal for the fall, this coming fall, is to book more cabaret shows, and I'm trying to book some shows in high schools and at colleges. I'm trying to bring it to some campuses. The most recent one we did was at a private school in Connecticut, and they had their own theater. It was beautiful, but I'm trying to bring it to the Philly area. I'm trying to get some people from the Philly area, some politicians and stuff involved, so that we can bring it to the inner city schools in Philly, maybe at a one location or theater, and then bring like 5 6 schools in to see this thing. But I would love to bring it to some of these colleges and campuses, schools that have budgets that want to just bring entertainment to the students of the school. It's, every year these colleges, they have budgets that are set aside for these kinds of performances and shows, and so the more of these we can do and the more people we can get in front of, the more likely it is that the right eyes will see it, hear about it, come check it, and put us in the right direction.
Fantastic. It's a hip hop musical in a very short lineage of hip hop musicals, but of the ones that existed before, there was the one with Savion Glover. What was it? Bring the pain, bring the noise.
Bring it north.
Uh, and then of course Hamilton, and that was an enormous success. So I think there's a generation of theater goers who, not like me, but theater goers who grew up on hip hop, who are looking for the theater experience to commingle with the hip hop sensibilities and the stories that have, rich histories like the one that you're telling. Um, in the falling season, it's a story of coming of age and of all of the things that come with, insecurity, growing up in the city. It's a compelling piece of scenery, and I'm happy that you've taken 8 years to incubate this thing. Our guest today has been the great Master Ace. Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Thank you for having me on, man. Great questions and great conversation.
Terrific.